Welcome to the UnScripted Authentic Leadership Podcast, a podcast where we're seeking to lead change while also seeking to understand. We are also here as a platform for leaders to come together, to unite, to develop and empower other leaders in the areas of business, family, and community. I'm your host, Lafayette Lane, joined by my co-host, John LeBron. Today, we are joined by a returning guest. He's not guest, returning family member, Rory Douglas. Rory has joined us again to have a conversation this time around about pursuing financial independence. A little bit about Rory Douglas. He is a financial educator, international best-selling author with over 20 years experience in the financial industry. He has worked with some of the top names out there like Tony Robbins, Kevin Harrington from ABC, Shark Tank, and Jim Britt. He has not only educated countless amounts of families across the United States and Canada, but also has recently taken social media by storm. And we know that to be true. The last time he was on our show, he had 50-some thousand followers. I think I checked today, he's up to 118,000 on Instagram. Rory has also been voted top 100 global leaders in finance by 2020-21 by GCIF. And today, again, he's right here on the UnScripted Authentic Leadership Podcast. Rory, thanks for coming back on.
Man. I'm so excited, man. Lafayette and John, you guys are my buddies. Thanks for having me again. I'm really excited. I know you mentioned about IG, Instagram, and the followers, but I just hit 1 million followers on TikTok last week and 7 million likes. So I'm really pumped up, man.
Man, he is killing the game. He is killing the game.
Spend more time on TikTok.
Yes, and it's happening fast too, man. But thanks to you guys for the support. And last time we spoke, man, I know a lot of people got a lot of great information. I heard a lot of great things about our conversation. So I can't wait this time, man. I'm telling you, the game's tagged and you guys are it.
Absolutely. Let's get right into the conversation. Again, we're talking about pursuing financial independence. That can go so many different ways, but I kind of want to get a working foundation on when we talk about financial independence. What does that really mean and what does that look like?
Well, financial independence is something that is a requirement today. And if we're honest with ourselves, we know that the old model doesn't work anymore. What I mean by the old model of going to school, get a great education, get out, get a job. Well, here's some facts and some statistics. The average person keeps a job in corporate America today 5 to 6 years. That's facts. And the average American was 1 to 2 paychecks away from being homeless before the pandemic, and 1 out of 3 Americans in debt before the pandemic, and the average American family cannot even handle a $400 emergency. So we see the characteristics of poverty is so familiar. So today we need something new. We need some answers in a world of uncertainty.
Absolutely. What would you say to that person that is in pursuit of trying to become more financially independent and financially free? What are some things that they can do to start that journey of financial freedom?
Well, the first thing we have to do is we got to take the initiative to start learning about basic finance 101 principles and rules. I always tell people, most people, they don't plan to fail. They just fail to have a plan. Today, you have to have a plan. So really, a lot of people are losing hope and encouragement, but really don't get discouraged. It's really all about just learning about Finance 101. And like I said, having a plan. In America, we're very famous for hoping, and our imagination is real big. But the bottom line is we got to have a plan. And that's what it's all about. And I always tell people, don't praise progress, don't praise perfection, but praise progress. In other words, just take one step at a time. But I can give some people some tools that'll really help them. The first thing you want to have is a solid foundation. I always tell people when you're building a house from the ground up, what's the most important part? It's the foundation, quite naturally. What happens if the foundation is weak? The house falls. So first you got to have a solid foundation. Then you go from a solid foundation to debt management. There's 2 types of debt. There's good debt. There's bad debt. Good debt if I'm paying for my mortgage or my children's education, or I'm investing in myself. Bad debt bad habits, wasteful spending, credit cards, all of those things. Then you go from debt management to emergency fund. There's something that's called the 10-20 rule. 10-20 rule. The 10-20 rule is we should have, as Americans, 6 to 10 months of our monthly expenses saved up just for emergencies. So let's say if I have $1,000 in expenses a month, I need a minimum of $6,000 saved up just for emergencies. The 20 represents 20 times our annual salaries to retire. 20 times. So if I make $60,000 a year, I need 1.2 million to retire. Not at one time, but over time. And then we go from emergency fund to investments. You notice how investments came last, because if you don't have a solid foundation, no debt management plan or emergency fund established, you can't really invest or even save properly. The average American, John, pays every bill first before they pay themselves, and that's a bad habit. When you pay your bills before you pay yourself, you're training yourself to be a consumer. That's why the average American is 1 to 2 paychecks away from being homeless and 1 out of 3 in debt. So one of the first rules of money, learn how to pay yourself first before you pay any bill. So I think that's a good start for people.
That's awesome. So what about, there's a lot of information, and since the word misinformation is used a lot lately, we'll go with that, about do I pay debt? Do I pursue, developing income, or do I do both at the same time? Some people say you already covered the bad debt versus good debt, which was one of my questions because that's everywhere and people don't seem to filter that. And so what about the person who says, I got debt. I want to start paying myself first, but do I tackle the debt first or do I pay myself first? What do I do here?
Great question. I'll tell you this. I don't waver about this, and I know you guys are believers, but I'll tell everybody, debt stands for do everything but tithe. Do everything but tithe. First of all, you want to pay yourself first, as I said before. For those of you guys who are believers, pay your tithes first, then pay yourself. Now, when it comes down to debt, the only solution for debt is a few things. Today, the average American has at least 2 jobs. The average millionaire has multiple streams of income. So I always tell people that if you want to get out of debt, you want to make sure that you create another stream of income to work towards your debt. But you still got to pay yourself first, whether you like it or not, even if you have to go back and what you pay yourself. Everything is all about habits. I always tell people winning is a habit and losing is a habit. It takes about 21 days to develop a habit and it takes about 21 days to get rid of a habit. So everything's all about habit. So you want to create a healthy habit, paying yourself first, trying to save, and not only that, working on your debt. That's what it's all about. And like I said, you chip at it one day at a time, one step at a time. And once you understand how money works and you're putting your money in the right places, now you can have money for a lifetime and not a lifetime. And we'll talk about that as we move forward.
I think you probably answered this too. But one of the questions I'm sure some people have is, okay, you say pay myself before I pay any bills. I got a lot of bills to pay. How am I supposed to do that? In my head, I'm thinking you probably got to start lowering the amount of expenditures they have. But can you talk to that for a second?
Yeah, once again, like I said, it's no silver bullet. The bottom line is that when we are in debt, let's be honest with ourselves. A lot of us, we have overspent and we've done things, quote unquote, to really mess up our spending habits, the way we operate, right? That's the reason why I'm encouraging people to create multiple streams of income, whatever that may be. I always tell people, turn your 9 to 5 to your 6 to 9. If you're in debt, you got to create something else on the side that's going to work toward eradicating that. But there's no silver bullet. And see, that's the reason why we have to face that debt. And I always tell people, you can get out of debt very easily, but you just got to face that debt. That's the reason why you got to have a plan. But you can't sit around and know that you have a champagne taste with a beer budget and you don't have enough money to even get through the month and think something is going to happen miraculously. No, it wasn't easy to get in debt, and it's not going to be easy to get out of debt. But I guarantee you that if you face it and you come up with a plan, you can get out of debt. How do I do that? I was in debt years ago when I was in school. So I know you can get out of debt. It's all about discipline, like I said, and habits. And that's what it's all about. And I think that it'll be shortchanging people to tell them anything other than that. When you go in debt, you got to do what it takes to get out of debt. What I mean by that, working smart, not necessarily hard, but working smart.
Mm-hmm. That's so good, because I heard someone once a while back say you can focus on all your attention on just getting out of debt and wait on your whatever that second stream or third stream you were going to start, and you can wait. But then what? Eventually you're out of debt, and now you're starting. I mean, and so I've always been a proponent of start that side hustle or whatever and use it to pay your debt down. There's so many ways we can make money these days that are very low entry, if any, and you can basically create money out of thin air and start paying your debt off. Yeah, and you start paying your debts down, and then once your debt's gone, now you have more fuel to put basically on your fire, right? And the feeling of debt free is so amazing. Guys, just picture everything you make comes to you.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is it. I remember when I first got out of debt, and then I'll let Lafayette get on his next questions. I'm sure they're great. First got out of debt, and I remember getting a big check and thinking, now what? And I remember thinking, okay, I sat there and stared for a while, not literally at it because it's direct deposit, but I always had a spreadsheet, and I would pay this. And it felt like everything left the house. All the money left every time. And then once it was gone, I sat there and stared, and I thought, I had to keep second guessing myself. Do I owe anything? Nope. That's gone. I thought, well, I guess I'll just leave it here.
Wow. Yes. Hey, and listen, that may sound really, really crazy, but let me tell you something that sounds also crazy. Once we get out of debt and once we start making the money that we want to make in life, we take the money and we put it in the bank. I'm going to stop right there.
No, go ahead.
That's our next step.
Okay, well, in other words, let's say if we are involved with real estate, Bitcoin, whatever it may be, and we're successful. At the end of the day, when we make that money, where do we take that money? We take it to the bank. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. I'll tell you the reason why. Because banks in America, on average, give us about -1%. Inflation, I call it the silent killer. Inflation right now is about 7.5% and climbing. Hasn't been this high since 2008. So think about that. The banks on average is giving us -1%. Inflation is 7.5%. We got to have at least 8% or greater just to even beat inflation. So that means that I could be actually having money sitting in the bank. My money is not growing. It's actually going because it doesn't beat inflation. So let's say if I do have $10,000 in the bank, $100,000 in the bank, I just lent the bank $100,000 for -1%. So I always say to people, Lafay, would you rather put your monies in the bank and get -1%? Or would you rather put your money where the bank put their money? That's the problem with most Americans. They don't know where the bank put their money because they put their money with the bank, not to talk against banks, but the bottom line is you have to do smart banking. So I always tell people, once you understand how the system works, then you can really, really have money for a lifetime and not a lunchtime by doing smart banking. There's two things. The first thing is called fractional banking. Fractional banking. That means that banks by law in America are only required to keep 10% of our deposits. So let's say if I deposit $1,000, the bank is only required to keep 100. They're going to invest in 9. What do they invest in 9 in? Home loans, student loans, credit cards, real estate, stock market, S&P 500. And then the banks do something that may come to a big surprise to everybody. Banks are heavily, heavily vested in life insurance. It's called BOLI, BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. Last year during the pandemic, the banks in America purchased over $190 billion in life insurance. Now, what do they do with that life insurance? They take the life insurance and they do what you call fractional banking. They take the monies that's in life insurance policies and they lend it out. They also cover their executives with the life insurance and their employees. And then it all comes down to one word that most Americans dread, but the rich and the wealthy pay very little of: taxes. There's three types of taxes: tax now, tax later, and tax advantage. Tax now is like a checking account or a savings account. Think about that. Tax now is like a checking account or a savings account. The same bank, John, that we save money in, that doesn't save our money, still tax our money. Tax later, like a 401k, a TSP, a 403b, or pension, those are tax later. And then you have tax-free accounts. Tax-free accounts or tax advantage accounts are accounts like college savings plans, Roth IRAs, and life insurance. So we see that the banks do the same thing. They take their money and they put it inside of life insurance vehicles. But the average American has the wrong interpretation of life insurance. When we think about life insurance, the first thing we think about is someone passing or dying. Does that make sense? But the true meaning of life insurance for everyone that's listening right now is to transfer wealth. So not only are the banks doing fractional banking, you as an American should be doing infinite banking. What I mean by infinite banking, BYOB, be your own bank. Do what the bank is doing. It's smart banking.
Can you speak to this whole Bitcoin and the NFT a resurgence that is really going on right now, especially with the NFTs as of late? Is that a good route to go for one that's trying to pursue financial freedom? And if so, can you kind of explain what that is and what we can do with that?
Woo, man, when I get on you guys' show, man, y'all go right into it, man. I mean, that is great. I love that subject because I'm heavily involved with both of those things.
Okay.
I'm heavily involved with cryptocurrency. I'm heavily involved with NFTs. Okay. Definitely. I'll tell you the reason why. See, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare today. And right now, as Americans, we are in the Stone Ages. In other words, we don't even have basic financial literacy education. In other words, the banks, right now we're talking about banks, where banks put their money. Mm-hmm. We already know banks give us negative 1%. Inflation is 7.5%. We're still dealing with compounding interest. We're dealing with simple things like life insurance. However, it's a new industry because originally the dollar bill was backed by gold. You would say $1 backed in gold. Now the gold is gone. So now when I was a kid, we had something called a silver certificate. So it was $1 in silver. Now the silver is gone. Mm-hmm. Now the dollar bill says note, like house note, car note. It's borrowed. It has no value at all. So if a depression took place tomorrow, dollar bills would be stacked up outside with no value at all. So we are so reluctant not to get involved with the cryptocurrency space. But what we don't realize is the same dollar that people, work for, kill for, die for, that same dollar has no value. Mm. So we see people today putting money up to their ear. They better be careful they don't carry an ear infection. But the bottom line is that dollar has no value. So right now, it costs more money to make a penny than to spend a penny. More money to make a nickel, to spend a nickel. So electronic currency is here and it's here to stay. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure in the very near future that cryptocurrency is going to be something that's going to be the actual norm. We have professional sports players today getting paid in crypto. They'd rather take crypto. Now, when it comes down to NFTs, I think everybody should be creating NFTs because, like I said earlier, that today, right now, as we speak, when you look at the job industry, I told you guys when I first started that the average American keeps a job 5 to 6 years in corporate America today, right? Yeah. Think about this. We go inside of the store. What do we see today? Machines. We go in the bank. We see machines. We go in the airport. We see machines. Here's the bombshell. In the next 5 years, 85 million jobs are going to be displaced due to artificial intelligence, AI, robots. So we're going to have to learn how to go from social security to self-security. So we've moved from customer service now to convenience, which means the future is small business not only small business, self-business. You're going to have to learn how to be entrepreneurs. So that crypto space, the NFTs, I always tell people today, they don't buy books, they don't buy music, they buy you. So NFTs is great because as you build your brand, hopefully you're being you, you might as well want to make sure that you brand who you are, and you can get into the NFT space. You can get into the crypto space, but that's where it's at. But I always tell people right now is the time to start learning about it. So therefore you be prepared when it does hit, because it is here as we speak, but people are still in the Stone Ages. We're still dealing with trading time for money, and not only trading time for money, putting all our faith in a job when we already know that a job just stands for just over broke.
Mm.
So with the when people, I get asked a lot about. I'm not heavily involved in cryptos. I've played with it a little bit, just trying to figure it out more before I spend a bunch of money there, basically. But I do get questions on it, like, "Are you doing cryptos? What do you know about cryptos?" I'm like, I don't know a lot, not enough to like put a bunch of money down. I would totally be rolling the dice, just tossing it out there. How does someone educate themselves on where to go with that? I understand it feels a little wild west right now. Things go up, they crash down, they go back up. Things dropped recently. Bitcoin's like half its price, which tells me it's probably a good time to buy it. But anyways, how do people know where to go to educate themselves on what do I buy? There's hundreds, if not thousands, of cryptos out there, and is the goal to put your money where it will grow, or is your goal to hit one early and hope it explodes so you're an instant millionaire?
The goal is to follow the model that I said earlier. Remember, I told you guys we start from the ground up, a solid foundation. If you notice, investments came last after we had a solid foundation, debt management, then emergency fund, then investments came. You notice that, right?
Right.
So what we should do is all about education. Before we start getting involved with crypto live, learn about crypto, because there's so many different tutorials that actually allow you to deal with crypto so you can educate yourself. So it's really about education first before you get involved. Because I'll tell you this, a lot of people won't say this, but I'll say it on you guys' show. 85% of the people who invest in the market lose on average.
Mm.
The people who are winning are the people who are educating themselves about what's happening, cutting edge. In other words, start doing it now. Don't wait till everything gets popular. Now you want to get on board. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure.
I'll give you an example. I got a colleague of mine. He's in the NFT space. He has a business. I told him, hey, get into the NFT space. He said, okay. So he created a logo for his business. Well, he got that logo out there in the NFT space, and he started off with the logo selling for $1,000. And just last week, the logo sold for $10,000. You see? So that's where the world is going. It's a new space. Digital currency, branding, artificial intelligence. That's where we're going right now. And people have to really jump in, but don't jump in without having knowledge and education of how it works. That's what it's all about. So most people jump in and they listen to what someone else is telling them without any knowledge, put their money in, they lose, and now they're disappointed, and then they stop doing it.
John, did you have another question before I?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Roy, for the month of February, we are in a series called Black Excellence. And we're calling it Black Excellence because, as you know, the world has titled February Black History Month, which I believe it started off with well intentions and the message was well intended. But I believe that it has exactly become what has been named history. And it just focuses as if the achievements, the greatness of Black people and Black culture is a thing of the past and not the present and the future. So we remixed it and called it Black Excellence. And you are exemplary of that. I want to ask you, yes, sir. When you hear the word excellence and living a life of excellence, we know that principle transcends color. It transcends denominational lines and ethnicity. When you hear that word excellence or living a life of excellence, what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I would say this here. I'm glad that you brought that up because when I think about Black history, I always tell people Black is not a color. It's the essence which all color comes from. So we're all one family.
Sure.
So Black history is everybody's history. That's how I feel.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Black excellence is great because that's what it's all about. It's all about being the best version of yourself every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And not only being the best version of yourself every single day, being the type of person that brings happiness, that brings hope and inspiration to everybody. That's what it's all about. And I really, really pride myself on Black excellence because I know for a fact that we got so many young people today out there living in this society, and they're ready to do a lot of things to make the world better. But the eyesore of yesterday of racism and bigotry and all the stuff that's taken place,
yeah.
I think today we have an opportunity to not only show Black excellence, we have an opportunity for especially the millennials to really, really come together, work together to make the world a better place.
Excellent answer. Go ahead, John.
I have nothing to add to that.
If you were to leave our audience one last tip or piece of advice, and it doesn't have to be about financial independence, it could be about that, but something that's on your heart that you want to share, what would that be, Rory?
You know, for everybody that's looking and listening, I would encourage you not only to be the best version of yourself each and every day, keep this in mind. Your job is what you get paid for, but your calling is what you were made for. And what I mean by your calling, the thing that's inside of you, I've said this before, the gift that's inside of you. Everybody has greatness inside of them. Everyone has a gift. And it's sad that most people never discover their gift because more people spend more time outside of themselves and very little time with themselves. I'm encouraging people to spend more time with themselves to discover the gift that's inside of them, because the cemetery is one of the richest places on the planet Earth. Mm-hmm. There's more buried dreams there, more buried ideas there. I'm encouraging people to be the best version of themselves. Don't be afraid to look at themselves. Don't be afraid to discover themselves. That's what it's all about. So really, when it's all said and done, I strive every single day to be a change agent. When I say change agent, in other words, I'm trying to help as many people as possible, but I'm counting and rooting on whoever's listening and looking right now. You got greatness inside of you. I may not know you, but I do know the potential you have, and I believe in you. So I want to let everybody know who's listening, I believe in you, and I'm counting on you to not be afraid to look at yourself, to be the best version of yourself. And not only that, live life to its fullest. You deserve to.
Stay connected with Rory. You can do that several ways. Follow him on his social media accounts. Follow him on his TikTok, which has 1 million followers now, at Rory K. Douglas. Purchase his book, The Power to Get Wealth, No Money Required. Now, Rory, you mentioned that you're on a book tour, but I don't believe it's that book. What book is it? That's the book, Cracking the Rich Code, with Tony Robbins, Kevin Harrington from ABC's and Shark Tank, and Jim Britt. And it's currently an international bestseller. I'm excited about that. Absolutely. And that's where we are right now. But people can get me anywhere. Rory K. Douglas. I'm like AMC Theaters. I'm everywhere. Talk your talk, man. Connect with UnScripted. Stay connected with us here on our social media at UnScripted Leadership, unscriptedleadership.com. And of course, our podcast is available on all streaming platforms. Again, we say thank you to Mr. Rory Douglas, our family, for coming back on, dropping more fire, dropping more gems as he did the first time around. Again, this time was no different. As always, we pray that you be the leader that God has called you to be. We're here to build bridges and not walls. Bridges connect and walls divide. Until next time. I ain't gonna let you off the hook that easy. I ain't gonna let you guys off the hook that easy. Okay, go. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys personally, because the work that you guys are doing out there and the genuine content that you guys are giving people
man, it is highly needed. And like I said, I know that the sky's the limit what you guys are doing. So anytime, you already know I'm here for you guys. Anytime, just pick up the phone,